Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Most people mate within their social group. Look, this is very important to understand because, one issue that I see out here is that many people, many men and women seem to treat like the mating thing as one used thing. Men and women, let's be clear on that. I'm going a little bit beyond what I usually go talk about as far as relationships on this channel. I'm talking about the overall picture, and I'm not limited it to any one particular group. This is overall. When a lot of people talk about relationships, they talk about the big thing. Like they'll say, well, people will say all women do this, or all men do this. And, and that might be the case within their social group, within their social milieu, but they haven't dealt with all women. Because remember, one of the things I've always said, I say, hey, when you're looking at relationships, there are other factors. There's the class factor. There's the subcultural factor, the economic factor as far as how that affects where you go, what you deal with. In fact, that's a part of social class. If somebody who grows up who's in a poor area, working on a minimum wage job, they're not going to have the same perspective on life in general or relationships in particular as someone who grew up in an upper class environment where they've traveled all over the world. They're going to have two different perspectives. Or you have a situation where you have people who are within a certain subculture. Okay, let me use a great example. You have people who constantly say, oh, beauty is objective. Is it? First of all, there are several beauty cultures around the world, several things that are considered beautiful or which will mark someone. And when I say beauty culture, how someone might change themselves to look a certain way. It's particularly when you look at indigenous cultures. I mean, you have some cultures that are more indigenous, they'll scar their whole body up or something, and that's part of the beauty. Or some cultures, you have some Asian cultures where they'll put someone in next to elongate their necks. You have some cultures where the ideal of beauty is having a lot more weight. You have some cultures, of course, say, oh, you got to be in that perfect fit thing. The other ones, they trying to put weight on you. It's different things. Let's be clear about that. Nothing's objective. And because of that, it depends on where you are. Now, most people mate within their social group, within their subculture, within their religion, even the social aspect of their racial group, because that's where they are. Even with social media, people will say, well, it's social media and stuff. People are going to go look for somebody who they can relate to. Remember, the root word of relationships is relate. Now, someone from a poor background where there's a different value system is not going to be able to necessarily relate to someone from an upper class background with a different thing. And there's been several books, some commentators have talked about this. Let me use, and the class example is the best example, really. The best example. If you have someone from a more lower class background where they, smoking and drinking, not really working out, getting the tats, all of that is more normalized. Well, someone's going to look for somebody who can do the same things, someone they can relate to. Whereas, in a more upper class environment, they eat different. You'd be hard to find an ashtray in an upper class home. You'd be hard to find an ashtray. They're not smoking and drinking to the same extent. In fact, in the area I live in, and I've said this before, and I'll tell you, it's the 2105 area code. And you can look it up yourself. It's rare I see someone smoking unless there's someone who works in the area or someone from a more lower class background who managed to move in the area basically on a Section 8 or something. You know? When I'm in the environments where I see the people with money, shoot, they doing yoga and stuff. They at outdoor fairs and everything, art shows and all of that stuff. And it's rare to see a cigarette. So it's a different thing. See, that's the thing with it. See, I'm gonna tell you what, like even the term hypergamy, a lot of people don't understand what that really means. Hypergamy means moving from one class to the other. And that's primarily practiced by women, attractive women. Attractive women. They might, you know what, they might be in a lower class and then they can move up. But as I said, that's an exception. Notice I said, I titled this most people stay where they are. Most people, if they in a neighborhood, they don't really go outside that neighborhood. They might stay there their entire lives. Then somebody else, maybe more upper class, will go someplace else. And then let's look at the subculture thing. I always use the example of when I was doing a seminar at this expo at a hotel, and I had a couple golfs in the audience. And they were right together. But if you would compare them to what the mainstream would consider attractive, they wouldn't fit in. But it didn't matter. That's their social group. You know, I mentioned before about, within the Black community, people who are more holistic. They practice alternative religion, maybe an African traditional religion, maybe Rastafarianism, vegan, everything. Tend not to wear weaves or, the waves, but have their hair more natural stuff. That's a different thing. That's a different vibe. That's within their social group when they're looking for somebody. Because at an even deeper level, psychological level, we really look for that person who matches us, what we think within. We basically looking for our match. That's why I say, whenever someone is, and I touched on the whole objective thing, I'm just like, well, no, it depends on the culture, religion, upbringing, social class, everything, because I'm serious, and I've as someone who's dealt with multiple classes just growing up, what somebody considers like ideal at a lower class level is not the same as at an upper class level. Let me use that example because a lot of people use that example of the Chads and Tyrones. Let me use the Chads. And let me specifically use it in the white community. A lot of those guys that are held up, clean cut, tall, all of that, you put them in some trailer park areas, some more lower class areas, they will be looked at like punks. The women wouldn't be, I've seen a lot of them. They wouldn't look at those guys like they are all that. They would look at them like, he corny. And if the same guy, instead of having the hair flowing, got a low buzz cut, got a little beard or even a bigger beard, especially in some areas, and, got some tats and got that more working class, like bodybuilding and everything. Oh, shoot, the women going crazy. And it's like that in all communities, all groups, all over. A lot of stats plays into it. And that's just a reality. It's a reality, and it's something that people have to think. Now, my thing is, if for whatever reason you don't like your particular social group or you don't like what you're getting or something else, then you have to work personally to raise yourself up. Now, I've talked about this before, and I'm going to stick on it. I'm going to stick on it. Because you have to look at the whole picture. And we got to be serious about relationships. And you might not be trying to be a player or have game or anything like that, but you got to be realistic who you dealing with and everything. All right? So anyway, that's all I got for this one. I'll get back with y'all later. I want y'all to really think about it. Just real quick, just think about, okay, what's your social group? What's your social class? What's your racial background? What city are you in? That makes a big difference. Like, and I was just moved to put this extra part. I remember I was at a seminar a while ago. Now I live outside of Baltimore now, but I grew up outside of DC. And I remember one of the panelists at the seminar, she was saying, you know, there's a big difference between men from DC and men from Baltimore. And she was like, yeah, the men in DC are more suave with it. The men in Baltimore are like, you know, more direct, had a rougher edge to them and everything. And that's cool. You know, some women might like the more suave guy, cool guy. Some women might want that more rougher type of guy. And part of that is the social class. Baltimore is more of a blue collar place overall. While DC, you know, that's, you know, that you got a lot of government workers, professionals, everything. It's a high price area. In fact, the entire region with DC at the center, some of the richest counties are in the area, so it's a different vibe than as you go further out and you deal with more working class areas. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. So always keep all that in mind. So anyway, that's all I got for now. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.